Watch and learn, Jaime.
You guys were seriously going to put this on HBO Max? Like, are you for real?
Yeah, now that I've seen the movie, I don't get it either.
Like, like what? I wouldn't like. I enjoy like I don't get people. I don't get executives. I'll never understand their thought process behind anything. It specifically said it was formatted for IMAX at the end of it.
Yeah. Now, apparently on Wikipedia, the budget is only 104 million. I've seen anywhere between like 100 and 120. I think 120 is more realistic.
That is ludicrously impressive if it's only 120. So I'm going to be honest. Everything that was in there looked amazing.
I've said this before, but one of the best looking movies of the 21st century is District 9, and that only had a budget of like 30.
Yeah, and I don't remember. Oh boy, this is a callback. This is the only time I got like a question. Well, two. I got one about blooper reels answered on AMC Movie Talk, but I sent one in when John was doing mailbags, and you could send in voice calls in something that they had set up, and the question I had asked was, "What are some movies that you couldn't understand, costed so little, and couldn't understand costed so much?" Because he had always mentioned one movie, and then I was like, what's one that's super expensive? So the one he mentioned that was super expensive that I'm not going to look up the budget for because I don't even want to think about the movie anymore is The Lone Ranger.
I knew you were going to say that.
It was like upwards of over 200 something odd $million, which is insane.
I think it was like 250 million.
250. That's insane. That's more than the first Avengers. Everyone keep that in mind. The first Avengers movie cost 220.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the Lone Ranger cost that much? But then the one that I mentioned, which what I think is one of the most beautiful looking movies of the 21st century and costed way less than what I thought it would, is Pacific Rim.
How much was that?
180.
So it can be done.
It's amazing when you put the money in the spots where it should be, how you can control your budget better.
But I digress. What is the story of Blue Beetle? So in this version, Jaime is just coming home from college. He graduated from Gotham Law.
Gotham Law.
Which is awesome. And he returns home full of aspirations for his future, only to find that home is not quite as he left it. As he searches to find his purpose in the world, fate intervenes when Jaime unexpectedly finds himself in possession of an ancient relic of alien biotechnology, the Scarab.
So, okay, all right. Here's a weird thing. In good ways and bad ways, this felt like one of those mid-aughts comic book movies.
Like a Phase 1 Marvel movie?
No, I'm talking Daredevil, Fantastic Four, that time, mid-aughts comic book movie.
Okay.
In both good ways and bad. The latter half of it felt like a Phase 1 Marvel movie.
Gotcha.
The beginning felt like more of that time frame of what I was talking about originally. There was parts of this that I very much liked and unbelievably small parts that I didn't dislike. Like, I both loved and wanted to kick clean off the screen George Lopez's character, depending on the minute of screen time that he had.
Understandable.
Like, that's the part where I'm like, that was a mid-early 2000s Marvel comic book movie. But, like, I cannot get over, and I mean this wholeheartedly, that Blue Beetle costume is in my top 5 possibly top 3 best portrayed comic book costumes onto screen ever. It should not have looked that good.
I'll settle for top 5. And
It,
here's a hot take. I said before that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costume is the best Spidey costume.
I'll agree with you wholesale. It is 100%.
I think this is better. And hold on, I'm not done.
Okay.
I think this is better than the MCU Spidey costume.
Okay. Well, I've never been the biggest fans of some of the MCU Spider costumes. I really liked the one where they put the gold tint in it. That one looked really good. But like the MCU Spidey costume, I don't know what it was about the blue. I never really liked it. Like it was a basic Spider-Man costume. It wasn't bad. It just like I didn't even hate the original Amazing Spider-Man. I will say here that, and when I say Blue Beetle, like I'm talking you needed to work to make this work. Captain America's, other than whatever Joss Whedon was smoking when he did the first Avengers, all of his were like, you made a thing that Captain America should look like. Captain America has a very basic thing. That's what he should look like. Therefore, that's why he had a lot of really good costumes, because nailing Captain America, you have to try to screw that up in most instances. He's got a very good template. Mm-hmm. Hulk, Thor, you have these things where it's like you take the thing, you make it, you put it on the screen. Iron Man could have been bad, but they nailed the first one and it was good. This is one where the budget is low. It involves CG, but also the suit without the CG lights and everything still looks good. It's not like in later movies where you just had Tony wearing a suit and it was all CG'd onto him. That's what I mean by why this is so high.
From what I understand, most of the effects in this movie, like, okay, some of the obvious stuff, like, you know, the shields and
all the weaponry.
Yeah. The weaponry is like so obviously CG, but the costume and some of the other effects, those were practical.
Oh, absolutely. Like the first picture we saw was when he was walking down the street with his mask off.
Yep.
And it looked perfect. Like legit. I remember Joss. I think I felt him orgasm through the computer like when that costume got shown. And it was just unreal to me that they just did this good on the first try. Give or take, we had Smallville.
Smallville was a television budget.
And that, to me, for what they were going for, still wasn't horrible.
No, but it wasn't bad, but it was relative to its budget.
Relative to its budget. Then you had this. This is first time at bat. And they absolutely 1000% nailed it. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the main actor's name because I don't know how. All I know is he's from Cobra Kai and he's a really good actor.
For brevity, we can just call him Sholo.
Sholo. Okay. All right, cool. And so yeah, this is really like, this felt like so good that it was away from everything other than the fact that they just mentioned that Batman and Superman exist. But it's a DC Comics movie. You're just gonna do that. And it's gotten to that point where, like, if you don't, it sounds dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in Batman and Robin, he mentions that Superman exists.
Yep.
They weren't going for joint universes. And having this so detached is one thing where I'm just like, every now and then it's cool to have a new dude introduced that just takes care of his thing in the Florida Keys and he's okay. This was so unbelievably small scale, that it fits perfect. And you would never have gotten anything with a personal Olmec battle with Jaime, sorry, that if you wouldn't have done this. And it was a good movie. And you wouldn't have gotten this if we don't try some smaller spec things where you watch your budget and make something where you don't just piss money away.
I compared this movie on Twitter to Bumblebee in terms of where the hell it even fits in continuity, because both those movies are kind of stuck in that continuity limbo where it doesn't really matter, but they're both so good at just being what they are that you can enjoy them without any baggage.
It is, you can enjoy them without any baggage. Blue Beetle had the what I want to say, reward of being not mentioned in anything else, and then it can just shift into the new stuff. Bumblebee has been made clear that it's set in something else, and the producers refuse to acknowledge that it is in a different thing. Those new Transformers movies, I will never understand the sheer amount of denial that even when they make jokes in those movies that they aren't in that continuity, that they still try to believe that it's in that continuity. That Marky Mark left the Funky Bunch joke is literally mentioning that they're not in that continuity anymore.
That joke still never gets old.
Oh, it's fantastic. But so they're like, well, you guys have watch the movies. They like Transformers. They don't give a shit about Michael Bay. As long as you make good Transformers movies, they will watch them. Just like this, if you make good movies and stop sabotaging yourself, you can make money.
Also, I really want that Gotham Law hoodie.
So do I. I hope that goes onto a store somewhere. Because it's so simple and not like overdone that it's great. They need to make more things like that, where you could just get like, what I want to say, DC universe stuff that's not tied to a superhero. I'm so shocked that they don't just like the Gotham Knights football team. Like why they didn't make a bunch of stuff like that when The Dark Knight Rises came out. Like I want that more than I want Batman merchandise.
Same. Now speaking of superheroes and their cities, what do you think of Palmyra City being the home of Blue Beetle as opposed to El Paso?
I don't know. I'm going to be honest because I don't know if you've noticed. I am not Hispanic.
Fair.
If they did make sure to put the Spanish roots into the film, I did think that was a weird choice. But I think they wanted to heavily put the chords into the film that much. Now, again, I am not a giant Blue Beetle fan. I did not get as much as Blue Beetle as I did until Injustice. So I don't know if Jaime really didn't have that much to do with the chords. Like, I've literally never heard of Jennifer Cord until this movie.
Okay, about that. So Victoria Cord, who is our main antagonist in the film, is a relatively new character. She was, as far as I know, she was introduced in a new miniseries called Blue Beetle Graduation Day. Jenny, however, again, as far as I know, is original to the film. But Jaime's relationship to the Cords, or Ted Cord at least, is pretty significant.
Well, I get that, but I don't mean like they took his house from with the business. Like, I get that he's related to the Cords because Blue Beetle. I mean, like them stealing the property his house laid on because there was evil people in the company level of like integrated. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that stuff is like pretty new.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they did that because I don't know El Paso that well. I don't know if there would be like much sense in the plot they wanted to do to be like, well, they're taking the impoverished, really shitty part of El Paso and just taking it out for business purposes. If they had that plot and it only worked in something like the Keys. But I don't know El Paso.
We'll talk to Josh about that later.
So that's what I mean by maybe they had to place it here to get him tied to the chords faster. Because again, I don't know how quick he gets tied with Ted. Because again, I believe it's true that like the first person who used the scarab to this degree, or if at all, was Jaime. Again, don't know Blue Beetle that well, but maybe they were just trying to jumpstart all that stuff smashed together, so they made it here, and then it'll eventually morph into something that has to do with El Paso. I don't know. But I'm also going to be perfectly honest with you. With the head of development and where they were doing this, I could perfectly see them going, I don't give a shit about it being in El Paso.
That or the other thing is they were just thinking, why not just give him a fictional city like Batman has Gotham, Superman has Metropolis, Flash has Central City.
It is, so they can that could be copyright crap too. That I'm not like. Is that also a thing that is in new comics?
That I don't know.
Is it just Palmyra City or New Palmyra City?
I think just Palmyra City.
That is not at all what I wanted, Google. All right, but anyway, Palmyra City, Blue City, Blue Beetle. Here we go. All right. In comics, the producers wanted their superhero to. Yeah, that's literally a comment from the producers. In the comics, Jaime Reyes is from El Paso. In the movie, the story takes place in Palmyra City, a new locale created for the film. Producers wanted their superhero to have his iconic place like Gotham for Batman. So they wanted him to have his own place, even though I love. This is the weird thing about DC Comics. In DC Comics, we need to have Gotham City, we need to have Central City, we need to have Metropolis, we need to have Coast City, now we need to have Palmyra. And then you get Marvel, and they're like, 95% of our heroes live in New York.
I think this is why I've always just kind of preferred the world building of DC. But then what's even funnier is DC still has a New York, a San Francisco.
That's the part that blows my mind. Like, and I'll get people in DC who are like, yo, Gotham's obviously based on Chicago and all of this and that. I'm like, did you forget that in multiple interpretations of Gotham City, you literally see the Statue of Liberty in the background? I don't know where in Chicago you can see the Statue of Liberty, but I'm not made aware of it. I've been to Chicago once or twice. It's just so stupid. Oh, but the Christian Bale bat. Shut up. God, just shut up. Anyway, I mean, as long as they keep the Hispanic roots to the character there, it does suck. But at least they didn't make the character Jamie Smith.
Yes.
There could have been much worse.
For this character, I only asked for 3 things. 1, Jaime's undying love for his family.
Yes.
2, his tie to the legacy of the mantle.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Ted Kord and Dan Garrett aren't in the film, we'll get to Ted in a minute, like their presence can still be felt throughout. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing was, you know, his origin of how he became the hero. Like, this is a very reluctant hero's journey, and mm-hmm. every single adaptation of the character has pretty much nailed that part.
Yeah, and it's the look of it in him, like attached to his actual spine, like outside, looked great. That was all good. I liked that they acknowledged everyone else because I'm like, this is one of those where you could start a mantle and have some cool stuff. Like, I was half expecting to see something like just a prototype of Skeets or anything hanging out in the office. Because anyone who don't know that relationship with Booster Gold, it's pretty classic. That could make for a good TV show on HBO Max because they're not afraid to do it. They're doing it with the Green Lanterns. So yeah, I was expecting something like that down in the office. The overall look of the city I thought was cool. I guess it is just the Florida. That's another thing. I love how it's like it's Palmyra City, but it's on the Florida Keys. Like we literally, it's real. No, it's fake, but it's right next to a real thing. We had to make his own little county where Jamie's real and it's his. The plot was very basic. Evil corporation man or corporation woman wants Thing to go and do this because military might. And now people are going to make Iron Man comparisons.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't one of them.
Because, let's be honest here, I'm not going to say they're exact same character because they are not until they introduced nano machines and bullshit later to Iron Man. Then it very much became similar. But the moving away from making weapons to doing all that, there are very similar plot points in that. So you are allowed to make those. But anyone that is going to come here and try to say that Jaime is a Iron Man knockoff, as in the character itself, that I will punch you in the throat for.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
No.
I'm nipping that in the bud right now.
Yeah, no, those statements are going to be split. Some of them you're excused to make because they're truthful. Others, dumb racist bullshit. So make sure you're clarified and saying the correct statements because otherwise you're a moron. But I very much like the strong connection with his family. If Jenny is very much made for this film, I like that you actually have a straight on relationship with the Cords that is that close, because if you're going to give Jaime a relationship, which we can't have superhero movies without it, it's very nice to have. And she's a great actress. They did a good job. One thing that I did not expect out of this film, and odd little side tangent, I would have seen this last night, but I did a stream with Emmy Jacobs, a streamer friend of mine. Emmy, if you see this somehow, hello. And I did get to go at the regular time, and I paid for my ticket, I went to the bathroom, and I walked out, and my nephew was in the theater. I was like, what the heck are you doing here? He's like, oh, to see Blue Beetle. I'm like, awesome, I'll see you with you. They walked around, did the whole thing, and oh boy. I'm trying to think of he doesn't know a Nintendo system before, like, the Switch. So, him and his friend, when we get to the gear they start using in this movie, I'm like, I started dying when the Power Glove came out, and they could not understand why. They're like, Uncle Brock, what is it? I'm like, that's a thing that is like 30 years older than you. I barely know what the Power Glove is.
Were you expecting Jaime's sisters to say, like, I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
It's so bad. And then also, one thing I was very proud of, his friend, when they made the locator, it's got Game Boy attachments on it. Like, I don't know where it is, but I have that little dangler light thing because everyone who's not at least 30 years old, handheld systems didn't have backlights back in the day, so you had to get an auxiliary attachment that would shine a light down so that you didn't have to have your parents turning the car lights on because the cops are going to stop your vehicle in the mid-90s to have a light to see your Game Boy. And anyone who thinks I'm joking, almost every parent in the mid-90s said, shut up, we can't have the dome lights on, the cops will stop us.
I don't remember that specifically, but I do recall my dad getting very upset every time we turned on the lights driving at night.
It was the dumbest thing ever. I'm like, there's nothing. I have my license. There's no bullshit thing where we can't have the dome lights on. What is wrong with my parents? But yeah. I did very the how close Jaime, and do we know who voiced the Scarab?
Becky G.
Becky G. She did an amazing job. Their relationship was amazing. Again, another, everyone's going to make the comparison, but I very much liked it. It was fantastic. And again, the fighting style, which there were straight up comments from the producers that they looked at Injustice to the video game that is a DC fighting game that Jaime was in and took ideas from that, because you should do that.
I wonder if they also were inspired in part by the movie Upgrade, because for those who haven't seen it, it stars Logan Marshall Green as basically Venom, but with like nanotech instead of a symbiote.
Mm-hmm. It could. We have to see, but yeah, it's very like, if watch some videos of just like Blue Beetle combos from Injustice, and it's scary. Like, I identified actual combos and stuff that was going on in there. It was awesome. The movie, for the most part, and this is not a bad thing, because you are very much allowed to do this with origin movies, because you want the movie to do something, but you just nail it doing it, was a very much, I want to say, basic plotted film, but I didn't hate it, because again, this is an origin story. I don't think you need to have like Schindler's List for your first movie.
No.
And anyone that says otherwise, I literally hate, where they're just like, it was so basic. I'm like, cool. I'm sorry to tell you, Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, which was highly lauded as one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. Guess what? That was pretty basic. Sorry to tell you, it was just done really good. It's a basic movie.
Mm-hmm.
All of those movies are. They're just done really well. That's the difference. Basic movies done bad are the worst films ever, because they're basic and they're bad.
This is why I usually tell people plot is the least important aspect of a movie. Like, this is a pretty basic plot, but what you fill that plot with, in this case, a strong ensemble cast, you know, a universe that feels lived in, and just strong character work, that fills up the rest of the movie and makes it as compelling as it is.
I will say the execution of said plot is more important, because you can have an incredibly good plot and then you fart all over it.
Oh, that is totally possible.
So no matter what, again, the human element of how you handle it, again, which is what you were describing, is very much how it goes. The fight scenes with Olmec every time were nailed. And
by the way, we shouldn't get too far away from this. Fucking Olmec in a live action DC movie.
You know what we wouldn't have seen? A fight with just normal Olmec. Unless it was in something like this. We would have seen a billion of them in CG scatter catastrophes fighting the Justice League otherwise.
Yep.
We would not have got this without a Blue Beetle movie. And that is something I appreciate. Where you can make something like Olmec be a serious threat to one single character if you make it a power balance.
By the way, I love how this version, Olmec stands for One Man Army Corps.
What's the original?
There's a couple. I think the first one was Omni-Mind and Community. No, the first one was Observational Meta-Human Activity Construct. Then it was Omni-Mind and Community. And this one is One Man Army Corps.
One Man Army Corps. That is very nice. Man, I just love how they're just like, well, those other ones don't make sense. We need to come up with another thing that spells OMAC. And I just love sitting there. No. I just love picturing those boardrooms where they're going through this garbage. But yeah, that's the entire family was a good thing. The Scarab going from protecting Jamie to legit caring about Jamie, even though it has been described as what I understand as an actual like destructive device in its core ideology. Um, but it's bonding with Jaime, I guess, might have changed, or we could do whatever. We're gonna have to wait and see because again, I know for a fact that there's different versions of that thing that come up later.
Yep.
And yeah, it like stopping him because it's like your dad's going into cardiac arrest and stuff like that was good. And like stopping him from killing Omek, getting to see his actual memories, that it's good that it's keeping that in Jaime to keep him on the straight and narrow. The and like there's parts where like there's also parts where this was mid 90s comic book movie. And that was the grandmother with old Painless in the tunnels.
That definitely felt like a nod to like Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, I was like, this movie had a lot of different genres mashed into one, and it shockingly worked. And it's getting to see how, in a good way, how dorky the Beetle, like I don't remember if they even had a name for it other than the Beetle, like the ship.
Oh, like the Beetle, or the bug car,
The bug car. I love it.
or bug jet, whatever.
They didn't go out of their way to make that thing look like snazzy and sharp and cool. It looked like Ted would have made it. And everything that's in there looked like Ted would have made it versus somebody else. They didn't just make it cool to match Jaime. They made it look like Ted made it. Because Ted was a lot more basic again. He actually was an inventor and all this. I appreciate that they kept that. One complaint that I've seen, and I understand it, but I hate it. And this is a thing that has been a big issue of mine every single time they made a comic book movie. This isn't the storyline they did in comic book C.
Yep.
Everyone, I understand there is a comic book where Maxwell Lord shoots Ted Cord in the head and kills him. I get that. Here's the crazy thing about comics. They make more than one, they reboot them all the time. Do you know what they are literally doing when they make a comic book movie?
They're starting from scratch.
They're making another version of it. They do it all the time. That is literally what it means. So when they don't do it the exact same way, you can do that because they're making a new one. It's either it's not the right thing or they did the same thing and we weren't surprised. Y'all are never happy.
Nope.
It's okay if we didn't see Ted Cord get shot in the head. Because guess what? Now we can see Ted Cord do stuff later. Did you really not want to have Ted be in other movies? No, because now we can have the dream team of Ted Cord and Booster Gold be played by Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk. Because guess who's really good friends with both of them? James Gunn! That dream fan casting can finally happen.
Yep.
Let stuff happen and be happy. Just because it's not what you wanted or you've read before, it can still be good.
Although, now that I think about this, and maybe he's too old to play the character, but since Jaime's been aged up for this movie, I think it's okay. What if Patrick Wilson was Ted Cord?
I don't know. I kind of actually like it better with them having Ted Cord being a decent amount older than Jaime. Like, I wouldn't be against that, but like until later on, I would like to not see recasts. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm okay with them using the same actors again, but like I wouldn't mind until they got through like a phase or whatever they're going to call them, until they started calling back people that are going to be pretty important still in a movie that hasn't even come out yet. So I'm okay with other stuff doing it. I would just pump it a little bit and give a good range of new people into it before they start redoing other ones, because it's fine. They can sleeves whatever. I would wait. But again, it's just
Only reason I say that though is because Patrick Wilson played Night Owl in the Watchmen movie, and if you know your comic book history, Night Owl is basically Alan Moore's version of Blue Beetle.
Yes. Except he just can't have sex unless he's in a costume. I just love how stupid that is. What's your superpower? Erectile dysfunction. Anyway. Oh, wait. Yeah. I forgot he played Night Owl too. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Again, I hope this makes a good amount of money, because I know it is literally the point that where. Also, anyone, here's a thing that needs to happen. Title of article. Click. Would you believe what they're going to do? How about we article, click, read, make decision inside consciousness, and then go puke it somewhere else? Because someone wrote an article about how if Blue Beetle doesn't do well, you're not going to see Mexican representation, and the entire world exploded. Guys, shut up if you haven't processed something. There's a thing called a filter. There's a logical and a language filter. The language filter can be a little bit better to help you enunciate and do things to the degree of how you want to describe something. But the mental filter that a lot of you like to clock out and never press the open button on internet articles, please stop. If this movie does not make $1 billion, that doesn't mean it's not successful. That crap needs to end also. If it doesn't make 15 times its budget, that doesn't mean it wasn't a smash hit. Shut up. This thing can be a mild success. Get everything going better for this continuity. Do another one and then keep going. This $1 billion club bullshit that comic book movies need to be inducted into to be successful needs to stop.
Seriously.
I hate it. Everyone's just like, well, yeah, but it didn't make $1 billion, so these comic book movies are heavy. You need to stop equating value with money.
Not only that, but I'm just generally sick of people expecting a movie to make all of the money in its opening weekend.
Absolutely. It's so dumb. We're getting away from that. Do you know what partially killed that? COVID.
Yep.
We're not in the we could go to theaters, you need to see it at midnight and reserve your seats, otherwise you're not seeing it for months version of like when the first Avengers dropped. We're not in that anymore. Like they're making new openings and doing other things. It's not that same thing anymore. This has legs. Oppenheimer is nearing $700 million. And it's not cracking all these big numbers every weekend. It's the long haul.
Right now, Oppenheimer is the most successful movie to never hit #1 at the box office.
That's unreal. Because I'm going to guess Barbie took #1 that same weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, which makes sense. It still bugs me that freaking movie is rated R. Oppenheimer with 3 minutes of editing is a PG-13 movie, and that blows my mind.
Anyway, back to this.
But yeah, the ending fight scene is fantastic.
This is where I'll insert my Iron Man comparison. As much as
I need to open my door. Keep talking.
As much as I respect what Iron Man did for the MCU, in that it virtually created the MCU.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that its third act is
not great.
No, it is very dull and unmemorable. This, however, this is like actually thrilling. It's exciting. It has two really awesome needle drops. One, "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue.
I was not expecting to hear Motley Crue. Before you get to your other points, I have to tell you, hey, do you remember how I was so excited and so happy because I talked about how in comic book movies now, it's becoming extremely acceptable to have rap music? I lost my shit when Cypress Hill started playing in this movie.
I was going to bring that up next. Jaime gets a hallway fight scene set to fucking Cypress Hill.
Oh, it's so good. Keep that going. I want more. Anytime Jaime is in a fight scene, more Cypress Hill. Keep that going.
And again, Brock and I are pasty white guys, so
yes,
I can't speak too much about the cultural specificity of this. As a matter of fact, I literally had no idea who the claymation superhero was.
No idea.
If anyone can point that out,
Comments.
I would very much appreciate that, because that scene when they used that to block out the cameras was hilarious.
Yep.
And also that is the post-credit scene is just what?
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, keep bringing rap music. We have had the ACDC, which I never had any problems with any of this. The ACDCs, the whatever, the hardcore banging rock music to everything that we need to had. I'm sorry. Born in 1991 me, when the rap music I listened to came out, I need to hear this. In the past year, I've gotten to hear Biggie and a Transformers movie. I've gotten to hear rap music and a children-centric TMNT movie, and I now got to see Blue Beetle with Cypress Hill. I am loving my life right now. Please, James, I know you love good music. Also, I got to hear Beastie Boys and Guardians.
Hell yeah.
James, talk to everyone. Get that music in there. I need that could be DC's thing. Actual good needle drop moments with music. I'm okay as long as they're good.
I will say though, like I do appreciate the variety.
Yeah. I like everyone's like the representation, all that. Also, it was like Kickstart My Heart and it's Motley Crue. I'm like, huh? Okay, nice. But it was a great scene. Like the actual fight with the Beetle there was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone also put in the comics, I didn't know if it had a stink bug attack or if that was just another, hey man, we're making a mid-2000s style comic book scene right now, but that's okay.
Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of flatulent humor, but this worked. I accepted this.
They're making Ted Kord into the ultimate dork, which he is. So I'm okay if he has this stuff.
And that's actually one of the other reasons why I want Patrick Wilson to play Ted Kord, because he can be that like, you know, good looking but also just a massive dork if he wants to be.
Gotcha.
Like Ted Kord has to have like that dad energy.
Mm-hmm. It does. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, this was like, if this is going to be the starting point, I'm okay with that. Like, if I'm going to see like news reports about the Beetle, if they do the whatever route or whatever they want to call it, or just call him straight Blue Beetle, I'm getting CW flashbacks. Just call it Blue Beetle. If they have news reports about that or whatever, and it's just, we need to get past Aquaman and start getting some of this stuff as soon as the writer's strike is done. That is more important, everyone. Mm-hmm. As soon as that is settled, which, that court case dropped today.
Oh, you're talking about the one that's like
AI cannot be copyrighted. Ugh, thank God.
It's still a baby step, but it's an important one.
I don't care. Anything's a win at this point. But yeah, get that stuff done and then get this in place and start kicking some ass, making your own stuff. This is a good first step. He can be the young kid that is, well, younger kid that is in the big group that you technically, I guess you have that with Spider-Man, but he needed to be an adult more than most people did. You can still kind of have that with Jaime, but in DC and have him earlier.
Yeah, because in the comics, he's a high schooler, but I like that they aged him up.
It's not even that much of an age up either. It's pretty much so they don't need to have him in class.
Basically.
Yeah. Which I love. That was my favorite thing. Again, a third time we're going to bring up the Amazing Spider-Man. I loved so much. Everyone was like, it was so accurate, Tobey Maguire. I was like, bro, he looked like he was a 35-year-old in high school. Shut up about the look being accurate. Y'all can just calm that down right now. And like the Amazing Spider-Man one was like enough for me to threaten my disbelief because Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are aging like fine wine, and they look pretty okay. But then, instantly, 4 minutes into the Amazing Spider-Man 2, we're out of high school.
Because they knew.
They knew. Absolutely. I was like, good call. And then they were like, what do we do the next one? What if we actually get a 16-year-old? They're like, smart move. It just so happens that Tom Holland's going to eternally look like a high schooler until he's like 30. He's got that Finn Wolfhard syndrome. But yeah, this was a great starting point. I will tell you, though, I partially expected, and again, because he's such good friends with James Gunn, and they could have shot this afterwards, I was kind of expecting when in the end credits scene, when all that shit turned on, that you're just going to see like the screen pop up, do whatever, and then flash out in the reflection, see Nathan Fillion's face.
I hope we find out soon who voices Ted Cord in that scene, because
also, was that Ted, because this thing said Ted is alive.
I think he's just talking in the third person, like,
or is that Booster?
That was a question I had. I may have to see the movie again, to really hone in on the details, but it just kind of sounds like he's just like talking in the third person, like, hey, if you hear this, like, Ted has a message for his daughter that that he loves her and he's still alive.
Okay. We'll see.
Well, I'm sure we'll probably get answers in like the next week or so, but still, I got really excited when that scene happened.
So did I, because I was like, who's walking in there? Is it them coming to uncover something, or what's going on? Yeah, that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie.
Me too.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a very good time. And again, you make your comparisons how you want. Some are allowed, some are racist. And you know which ones are which.
Yep.
Speak wisely or shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
All right, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on various social media at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and that place at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we.
And you can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mainly Twitch, YouTube, and the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. If you like the Amazing Spider... I said amazing, I didn't mean to. If you are a fan of Spider-Man games from Insomniac and you are looking forward to the sequel, Organoid Zero, the @ on there on my Twitter, everything. It's the exact same thing name as my Twitch channel. On October 20th, when it strikes midnight, I will be streaming the game for probably, I'm not going to lie, probably like 4 to 5 hours, longer than I normally do. And I will be, during that, giving away a copy of the Digital Deluxe Edition. All you need to do is be subscribed, $5, and watching. That is it. Your name, all you will do is go into the stream, and once you're subscribed, that'll get you a token to enter a thing. You'll be entered into an automatic raffle. The whole thing will go through. It'll set down to a timer, and then I just press a button. It has nothing to do with me. It is all in my streaming system. It'll puke out a name, and the winner gets it. And then the very next day, after my ass gets some sleep, I will send you the copy. $5 to win something that's worth $80. I think that's a pretty good deal. All right. Until next time, we will see you all later.